What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, guys, so we are actually going to continue our coverage over Spawn for Spawn Sundays, where we actually pick up with Spawn the Hunt storyline that takes place in Spawn number 21 through 24, a 4-part storyline. Now, when it comes to Spawn the Hunt storyline, there are going to be a lot of characters involved in this one particular story. And so I may go into details for each of the characters so that you have a better understanding of why each character is actually in this one particular storyline. Now, on top of that, though, we're going to see the return of Overkill. Now, remember, Overkill died in the earlier issues of Spawn, but we saw him come back to life in Curse of Spawn thanks to his brother. And so this is him right now just coming back for revenge against Spawn. And so he will also be in the storyline as well. So here is Spawn the Hunt, issues number 21 through 24. I do hope you enjoy. Now, the opening pages of Spawn number 21 is actually very important. And the reason why, because the opening pages of this book is telling us right now that the Spawn Batman story we did in our last video is actually canon. It actually did happen in Spawn's timeline. And the reason why I'm saying that, because at the end of Spawn Batman number 1, we saw Batman throw a batarang in Spawn's face, and of course leaving a huge gash in Spawn's face. And so in the opening pages of this book, we're seeing Spawn right now getting his face stitched up by one of his homeless friends. And so right now this guy is saying, listen man, you're lucky that I do have some medical skills to actually help you fix your face. Now, once his face is actually fixed, you have Spawn show that he's very upset. And the reason why he is so upset is because every time Spawn makes a certain move, someone is always trying to come after him. Someone is always trying to get rid of him. And so right now, he's telling his homeless friend, it kind of sucks because almost every single day or every single week, someone is trying to kill me. And honestly, it's getting on my nerves. Now, of course, that is the moment where you have the homeless guy say, listen, dude, you have gone through a lot. But there are other people out there who have gone through worse things than you have. For example, me. I lost my wife. She had cancer, and unfortunately, nobody could actually help her. And so when I lost her, it destroyed my life, and I was unable to continue on. And that is how I got here to this point in life, being homeless. And so really, Spawn, yes, you have gone through a lot, but so have other people. But the thing is though, you have to keep pushing forward. And so it was kind of like a pep talk for Spawn to say, yes, you do have people right now hunting you down, but at the same time, you still have to keep pushing forward. But then we pick up with Jason Wynn. Now remember, Jason Wynn is actually very important for a lot of different things. First off, he was the guy who technically got Al Simmons killed, of course, our Spawn character. With that being said though, a couple stories ago, he was actually taken away by the forces of heaven. And with that being done, he was turned into Anti-Spawn, a character used to hopefully kill off Hell Spawns. And of course, Al Simmons is right now a Hell Spawn. Now they did fight, but Anti-Spawn lost. And so Heaven's right now trying to find a better way to upgrade Jason Wynn so that he'll be stronger the next time he fights against Spawn to get rid of him. Now with that being said though, when it comes to Jason Wynn right now, he also has some issues on Earth. And what I mean by that is, because he just disappeared for 2 whole days, you have higher ranking people in the government right now very upset that the fact their leader of the CIA just disappeared for 2 whole days and has no idea where he was, and they have no idea where he was. And so technically right now, they're watching him very closely because he just reappeared one day without any information on where in the world he was at. Now with that being said though, you do have 2 of his guys coming into his office and telling him, hey boss, listen, Terry Fitzgerald is actually a free man. Now when I say a free man, I don't mean like, yes, he got out of prison. I really mean more of technically all charges or all ideas that he's a bad person have been officially dropped. Because remember, Terry has been looking into what actually happened to Al Simmons. And because of that, Jason Wynn has been secretly trying to hopefully get Terry Fitzgerald locked away or somehow off the trail of what happened really to Al Simmons. And so he has been doing a lot of bad reports on Terry Fitzgerald to make Terry look bad and to hopefully have Terry removed from the CIA. Either way, right now, he tells his men, listen, burn the files that say that Terry is a good guy. But on top of that, I want you to watch Terry very closely because I feel like he might get very close in figuring out what happened to Al Simmons, his best friend. Now, because Jason Wynn had been giving out false reports on Terry Fitzgerald, Terry is technically right now getting bullied by other people in his office because right now they actually believe that Terry is a turncoat, a bad guy who is secretly doing bad things or secretly working for other people like the mob or other gangs in the city, even though technically he is not. But because of the false reportings from Jason Wynn, it does look like Terry does. And so in Terry's office, every single time he thinks he's going to have a normal day, he's actually being harassed by other fellow agents of the CIA. Either way, Terry's right now just trying to stay strong for his wife Wanda and their child. And that is the moment where we actually do jump over to Sam and Twitch. Now remember, Sam and Twitch are two police officers who live in New York City. But the thing is though, when it comes to these two police officers, right now they made it their personal goal to go after Spawn. And the reason why, because Spawn has been involved in a lot of their cases. And so of course they want to find him and arrest him once and for all. And so right now we do see them technically talking to a guy who's a well-known rat in the city of New York City. And when I say rat, I mean that he does share a lot of information about different gangs in the city or different information about different people in the city. And so right now you have Sam and Twitch coming to Jimmy and saying, hey man, listen, we need you to basically find information about this Red Cape character. And hopefully that information can help us into finding him. And so of course you have Jimmy agree to help Sam and Twitch gather information about Spawn so they can hopefully find Spawn. And so that is the moment we do jump over to Spawn. Now, when we jump over to Spawn, we do see him right now protecting his area of New York. Because remember, at the end of one of our last videos, Spawn said that this part of New York belongs to him. It's under his protection. Now, with that being said, he is confronted by a homeless person who's right now telling Spawn, hey man, someone in our area right now is looking for you. And right now they're going around attacking other people to just get to you. And so of course you have Spawn step in and find the guy who was actually looking for him. Now of course when he finds the guy, at first the guy is not scared of Spawn. And the reason why, because this guy is actually working for another character. And that character is actually a mafia boss known as Antonio Twistelli. Now, Antonio has so many different names in Spawn comics, but for right now, we're going to call him Antonio. Now, the reason why Antonio is technically coming after Spawn is because Spawn and Violator, another character in Spawn comics, have been ruining a lot of different operations that belong to Antonio. And so right now, it's him saying, I'm going to get rid of both Spawn and also Violator at the same time by using different weapons to technically get rid of them. And so right now, this guy is telling Spawn, my boss is coming after you. And if you try to fight back, my boss will then go after your family. Now, luckily for Spawn, it does seem like, okay, no one knows that he is the ex-husband to Wanda. But at the same time though, he might still put her in danger by going against Antonio. Either way, Spawn still is very confident about the idea that he should be able to actually deal with Antonio before Wanda or Terry get involved in this mess. And so that is the moment where we actually do pick up with Antonio. Now, right now you have Antonio showing that he is actually very upset about the idea that technically Spawn and Violator are still out there right now, but he's hoping to take care of both of them. Now, when it comes to the Hunt storyline, it does take place at the same time as the Violator 3-part miniseries that's also going on at the moment. And matter of fact, we might cover that storyline as well. Either way though, right now, you have Antonio get word about Terry. Now, the reason why he's right now getting word about Terry all ties back into Overkill. And let me explain. Guys, remember, Spawn had to use some heavy weapons to basically take out Overkill, but Spawn stole those weapons from a military base. And so because of that, Jason Wynn got into a lot of trouble because Jason Wynn is technically head of security. And so he should know where the weapons have went to. Unfortunately, Jason does not. And so for Jason right now, he's trying to protect himself, but at the same time get rid of Terry. And so he put the blame on Terry. Now, of course, like you saw earlier, Terry's name was clear, but unfortunately though, it's Jason still saying, no, Terry is our main suspect. I feel like he does have the weapon somewhere. Either way, with Antonio, he gets word about Terry. And so he's kind of like, this Terry person might be someone very important. You know what? I want you guys to keep a close eye on him because he could be very important for us down the road to help us take out our Spawn character. And so now Terry is involved with this mess. And so getting into Spawn number 22, we actually do pick up right now with Spawn going after a character known as Joe. Joe is actually the accountant to Antonio. And so right now, this is Spawn saying, I know that you know where Antonio is at. And so I'm hoping you'll be able to actually tell me. Now, while you have Spawn interrogating this guy, that is the moment where you do have two armed guards come in. Now, when it comes to these two armed guards, unfortunately, they are killed off by Spawn. Now, we could technically say Spawn did not kill them, but at the same time though, Spawn did throw a whole desk in their faces. So, of course, they have to be dead, and there was a lot of blood. Either way though, you have Spawn turn his attention back onto Joe to basically ask Joe, okay man, where is Antonio? And of course, you have Joe say, I don't know where he is at, but I'm going to hand you this file. This file right here contains a lot of information about different things on Antonio. Now, as soon as Spawn goes through the actual file, he does see one particular name. And of course, that name is Terry. And now he knows his best friend is now involved in this mess somehow. And so that is the moment where we actually do jump over to Sam and Twitch. And right now you have Sam and Twitch getting information from Jimmy about where they could possibly find Spawn at. And so with that information, you have Sam and Twitch say, you know what, it's time for us to go ahead and make our move on this Spawn character. Now, while they're trying to leave, that is the moment where they are confronted by a fellow officer who is actually right now making fun of them. And the reason why for an entire different situation, which honestly is not important right now. But of course, you have Sam get upset, and so he pukes in the guy's cup as a way to get back at him. Now, honestly, I'm kind of like, that's gross. You could really just say some kind of smart remark. But of course, it's Sam, and he is kind of a gross character, so it does kind of make sense that he would puke in the guy's cup. Either way, you do have Sam and Twitch leave to hopefully find Spawn. And so that is the moment where we do jump over to Terry. Now, this is the moment where you have Terry actually get called into the front desk. And the reason why, because his secretary is right now calling out for his name because she is freaking out. And we come to find out why she is freaking out, because someone sent him a gift. And of course, when she had opened the package up, there was a dead rat inside with a knife stuck through it to basically say, Terry, you are a rat. Because remember, Jason Wynn is right now painting this picture that Terry is a bad guy, that Terry is a turncoat right now. And so, of course, a lot of people in his office right now truly believe that Terry is a bad guy. He's not actually a good person anymore. And right now, they're calling him a rat and basically sending him a whole bunch of threats. And so that is the moment where we do jump over to Spawn. Now, when we do jump back over to Spawn, you have Spawn right now looking over the files that he was able to retrieve from Joe, the accountant that works for Antonio. Either way, when Spawn looks through the files, you have Spawn cannot believe what he found in the files. It technically says that right now, Antonio believes that Terry has something to do with what happened with Overkill. Now remember, Spawn was the one who stole the weapons from that military base to use those weapons to take down Overkill. And because of that, Jason Wynn, who's head of security, had to say, hey, I have no idea what happened, but I believe it is Terry. And so because of that, right now you have Antonio kind of like, so Terry was involved with the weapons that were technically used to take down Overkill, which means that Terry must be the guy who took out Overkill. And so right now, Spawn realized that sooner or later, Antonio might go after Terry now. And speaking of Antonio, we actually do see him right now technically getting updates on one particular character. And of course, this character is going to be very important for this storyline. And that character is going to be Overkill. Yes, Overkill is about to make his return. And so right now, you technically have the scientist telling Antonio, hey man, listen, sooner or later, we should have him up and running once again and to be able to be used to go after your Spawn character. And so hopefully this time Overkill will be able to actually take out your target, which again is Spawn. And for Antonio, this is great news to actually hear. But then we have to jump back over to Terry. And the reason why, because with everything happening to Terry, he's really scared for his wife and child. Of course, Wanda. And let's not forget, Wanda is the ex-wife to Al Simmons, Spawn. But right now, she got remarried after Al Simmons had died to Terry. Either way though, when Terry gets home, he finds out that Wanda and their child is not there. Because of course right now, they're paying a visit to her grandmother. And so of course, he's kind of relieved they're not here right now. Now unfortunately though, when he looks outside his window, he does see a unmarked CIA car. And of course that means he's right now being watched by the CIA. The problem is though, you also have some other men show up. And these guys belong to Antonio. And so because the CIA see these guys, they realize, hey, those guys work for Antonio. Are you going to tell me that Terry is actually bad? And matter of fact, he does work for the mob. And on top of that, he works for Antonio? Oh, this right here is not good at all. And so, of course, you have the CIA try to take down the gangsters who work for Antonio. Now, the problem is, though, the gangsters see the CIA agents. And so, of course, it leads into a shootout. Now, Terry does get involved in the shootout, but the problem is, though, the gangsters and Terry, they're able to get out of this shootout alive. Unfortunately, though, the two CIA agents did not get out of this shootout alive. Matter of fact, they got shot and killed. And so now this looks really bad on Terry because they died right in front of Terry's house. But then you have the gangsters who work for Antonio tell Terry, hey man, listen, meet us downtown because we have your wife and kid. And if you want to see them again, you better come downtown to meet my boss to get your wife and kid back. And so, of course, Terry now has to go and save his wife and kid. Here's the thing, though. Is Wanda and also their child actually with Antonio? That is the big question at the moment right now. But then we jump over to Spawn. Now, when we jump back over to Spawn, it's him right now looking for his weapons. And the reason why he's looking for his weapons right now, because in the files, it said that when it comes to Antonio's plan is to ambush him with Overkill, which means that right now, technically, Antonio truly believes that Terry was the one who took out Overkill. And so right now, his goal is to ambush Terry with Overkill. And Overkill can easily kill Terry. And so you have Spawn saying, I need my weapons. The same one I used last time to actually defeat Overkill. The problem is though, Spawn cannot find his weapons at all. And so with that being said, he's all like, where in the world did I put those guns? Unfortunately though, that is the moment Spawn is confronted by Sam and Twitch, because they have been looking for him and they were finally able to find him. And so that is the moment where we actually get into Spawn number 23. Now, when we jump into Spawn number 23, we actually do pick up right now with Spawn basically telling Sam and Twitch to go away. And the reason why, because right now he's looking for the guns that he used last time to kill Overkill so that he can once again kill Overkill, but to also save his best friend Terry. Now you do have Spawn try his best to explain what in the world is going on right now in his life, but at the same time continue his search for his weapons. Sam and Twitch don't care really. Sam and Twitch are still trying to arrest him because, again, Spawn has been involved in a lot of their cases over the short period of time that Spawn been back on Earth. Either way though, you actually have Twitch being able to shoot Spawn through the kneecap. Here's the thing though, Spawn keeps running, and that shows Sam and Twitch that Spawn is not normal. And so of course you have Sam and Twitch wondering what in the world is going on with that guy. How in the world was he able to take a bullet in the kneecap and literally it goes through his kneecap and he's still running like nothing happened at all? Now, speaking of Terry, we actually do see him right now being confronted by Overkill because he did go downtown. And with him going downtown, of course, he ran into Overkill. Now, here's the thing though. Overkill believes that Spawn is Terry. And the reason why, because remember, when it comes to Antonio, Antonio believes that Terry was the one who had killed off Overkill. And so when it came to Antonio, when they were working on Overkill, they gave him the memory update saying, your target is Terry Fitzgerald. He was the one who technically stopped you last time. And so right now for Overkill, he truly believes that Terry is actually Spawn. And so right now you have Overkill trying to kill Terry right now. And hopefully Spawn can get there before Terry actually dies. But then we actually pick up with Wanda. Now remember, earlier, the monsters who work for Antonio, they told Terry, hey, we have Wanda. That was not true. Wanda and their daughter was actually visiting her grandmother. And so with that being said, you have Wanda right now getting a phone call about what happened to Terry in front of their house. Because remember, Terry was involved in that shootout with the monsters and the 2 CIA agents. Either way, because of that shootout, 2 agents died, and they died right in front of Terry's house. And he left the 2 dead bodies there because he freaked out when the monster said, we have your wife and child. In reality, they did not. It was a trick, but he didn't know that. Either way, he ran off. And because he did ran off and left the 2 dead bodies in front of their house, right now you have Wanda getting a call saying, hey, so your husband was involved in a shootout and there's 2 dead bodies here and he's missing right now. And so right now, technically, he is a suspect. Where is your husband? But then we jump back over to Jason Wynn. Now remember, Jason Wynn is trying to technically pin everything going on right now on Terry. Because right now, Jason Wynn is also in trouble with the missing weapons and also being gone for 2 whole days because he was anti-Spawn. Either way, right now the higher ups are looking very hard on Jason Wynn. And right now he's trying to use Terry as a scapegoat. And so when we do jump over to Jason Wynn, it's him right now getting word that 2 of his men have been shot. Of course, it's the 2 men who were involved in the shootout earlier who are now laying dead in front of Terry's house. Either way right now, Jason Wynn knows they were actually killed off by the monsters. But again, with Jason Wynn right now being in trouble because the higher ups are kind of like, hey man, what happened to those weapons? Where did you go to for 2 days? He's right now saying that Terry was the one who actually killed off those 2 guys who are laying dead in front of Terry's and Wanda's house. But then we jump over to Antonio. Now, when we do jump over to Antonio, is Antonio right now mad at the 2 guys who work for him, who has shot those agents earlier, who technically left the dead bodies in front of Terry's house? Because right now he says, your goal was not to get in a gunfight. Your goal was to basically give word over to Terry to make him believe that we had his wife and daughter so that he would go downtown and be confronted by Overkill. That was your mission. Your mission was not get involved with agents, and that right there kind of puts more pressure on us. Either way, hopefully Overkill will kill off Terry, and that will deal with my Spawn problem. And then hopefully my other guy will deal with my Violator problem as well. But then we have to jump over to Wanda. Now, when we do jump over to Wanda, is her right now technically freaking out, because when she gets home to her house, she realized that there's a lot of commotion right now because there were 2 dead bodies left in front of her house. And so, of course, you do have the news channel right now just wondering, hey, Wanda, do you know what happened here? Do you know where your husband is at? And why did your husband kill the 2 guys right here? And so right now, it's technically Terry being made as the bad guy right now, as a killer. Now, the neighbors are there as well. And the neighbors who have may saw something, who may be able to actually help Wanda understand what truly happened, or at the same time clear Terry's name, they turn their back on Wanda and Terry. They all go inside their house, not giving her any kind of answers or support at all. And so, of course, right now, you have Wanda getting very upset about the idea that she has no idea what happened to her husband. Now, that is the moment where we do see Spawn being able to actually find Terry in Overkill. Now, when Spawn does find Terry in Overkill, it's right now Spawn trying to save his best friend from Overkill. Now, of course, that is the moment you have Overkill realize, oh, this is Spawn. This is my target. This is great. I've been looking for you. And so it does lead into a battle between Spawn and Overkill once again. Now, while you have the 2 characters actually fighting against one another, and of course it does go on for a few pages, Overkill is proving that he's actually still too strong for Spawn. Because last time, Spawn was only able to win thanks to the guns that were able to actually pierce the armor of Overkill. But without those guns right now, Spawn cannot do that. And so Spawn is trying his best to rely on his powers, but unfortunately his powers are not able to actually take down Overkill. Now, Sam and Twitch, they do arrive at the scene as well. And when they do arrive at the scene, you have Sam and Twitch realize that Spawn was telling them the truth about the idea of saving someone's life. And so, of course, they realize that Spawn does need their help. Now, you do have Sam and Twitch try to jump in and use their guns, but their guns are too small and weak to actually pierce the armor of Overkill. And so it does lead into technically Twitch being able to shoot a bullet right into the ear of Overkill. Now, it doesn't kill Overkill, but it does change his programming to the point where he now has a new target. A target right now known as Badrock. I want to say it's Badrock. Either way, Badrock is actually part of the Youngbloods. And so Overkill is now going to leave this book and jump over to the Youngblood book instead. And so that is the moment where we actually do jump over to the final chapter of this storyline. Now, when we do, we actually do pick up right now with Sam and Twitch freaking out. And the reason why the 2 guys are freaking out because they have no idea what to do with Spawn nor Terry. Because right now, Spawn and Terry are knocked out, but they all just survived some kind of cyborg attack. Either way, right now, they're wondering what in the world should they do with Spawn and Terry. Now, Spawn is knocked out, but you do have Terry begin to wake up. And once you have Terry wake up, he says, you have to let me go. And the reason why he's saying that, because right now, he still believes that his wife and kids have been kidnapped by the mob. And so, of course, he's telling Sam and Twitch, you have to let me go. I have to save my family. Now, you have Sam and Twitch say, no, you're not going anywhere at all. We need answers. What in the world is going on with you, him, and also that cyborg? And so that is the moment where we actually jump over to Antonio. Now, when we do jump over to Antonio, it's him right now showing us that technically he is very upset about the idea that Spawn got away again because Overkill had failed again. And so now this is the second time Overkill had technically failed for Antonio. Now, with that being said, you do have the other monsters in the city beginning the process of kind of looking down on Antonio. And so right now it's Antonio saying, I want you guys, my men, to go out there and send a message to the other bosses, because right now those other bosses believe that I am a failure, and I want to remind them I'm not a failure, but on top of that, I'm number 1 in the city. I'm the number 1 boss in the city. Their gangs are all number 2 and they all work for me. And so they need to be reminded about that. And so, of course, it's Antonio saying, no one is going to make me look bad and get away with it. But on top of that, no one is going to look down on me. And so that is the moment where we do jump back over to Terry. Now, when we do jump over to Terry, is Terry right now trying to get away from Sam and Twitch? Because Terry still believes that something right now is going on with his wife and kid, not knowing that his family is actually back at home waiting for him. And so right now you have Terry being able at first to lose Sam and Twitch to hopefully get away. Now, as he tries to do that, of course, Twitch and Sam are able to catch up to him. But here's the thing though, you didn't have the homeless people in the area protect Terry. And the reason why, because they don't like the police. They really do not like the police at all, because let's not forget, in earlier books of this series, the police have technically done some bad things to the homeless people in this area. And so right now, they rather protect Terry than give Terry over to the police. And so with that happening, Terry is able to actually get away once again. Except that is the moment you have two people who work for Antonio appear in their car. And right now, their goal is to drive over Terry. And so Terry right now is just frozen right in front of their car, making him an easy target. And matter of fact, they're about to run him over. But that is the moment you have Spawn appear. And of course, Spawn is able to stop the car with his powers, but to also teleport away as well. But after he leaves, he does write on the wall saying that this area belongs to Spawn, meaning that any of his enemies who try to come into this area, they're gonna have to mess with Spawn. And that is something they do not want to do at all. But then you have Spawn pay a visit to Jason Wynn. Now this is actually very important, because when Spawn does this, he's all like, listen, you are gonna call off your dogs, your agents, off Terry right now and leave him alone and clear him all crimes that you think he had committed, because you know that he's actually an innocent man. But on top of that though, if you don't do that, I have a file on you. And if this file get out, I'm telling you right now, you are going to lose everything. And trust me, I know you do not want to lose everything you were able to get with this lovely life you have right here. So you better call your dogs off right now before the files get released and you lose everything you have here in this room. And that is the moment where we do see Spawn actually go over and pay a visit to Antonio. Now the reason why, because remember, Spawn was able to get a file from Antonio's accountant earlier. And so with that file, it's Spawn saying, listen, I have enough information about you with these files. And so I'm able to actually release these files to the public and ruin your whole entire operation and get you thrown in jail. And so with that being said, you're going to leave Terry alone. If you don't, these files will get out there to the world. And when they do, your entire life is basically ruined. So I better see you leave Terry alone. But then we jump over to Terry and Wanda to wrap up today's video. Now when we do, it's technically right now Terry and Wanda being able to cuddle with one another. Now while the two characters are actually cuddling, you actually have Terry kind of amazed with the idea that everybody is just leaving him alone now, and so is Wanda. But when it comes to Terry, and this is something I realized just now that I forgot to mention, is that when it comes to Terry, he truly believes that Spawn is Al Simmons, his old friend that died 5 years ago. Now technically he is correct, but at the same time though, is Terry right now saying, how is that possible? How in the world is Al back? It's right now Terry beginning the process of believing that Al is truly alive again. But with that being said, this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.